Let's go out to Halas Hall. Adam Hoge ready to join us, who I was very entertained by the end of Luke Getsy's press conference when our Adam Hoge said, because no one else did at the very end, hey, that interaction with you and Justin Fields where he's screaming at you and you've got that weird look on your face. And he just laughed it off, Hoger. It was like nothing. There was just some big fun thing that we all could just, have a moment in time against the Cardinals.
Well, look, and he mentioned, he's like, yeah, he was yelling at me, of course. And then he was, he acknowledged the fact that stuff like that happens a lot, which is what I talked about earlier in the show, and the week. And he said that, he's been part of that before in other places he's been. What you probably didn't see is when the press conference ended and he's kind of walking off. I go, yeah, Aaron Rodgers never yelled at the sideline at you guys. He thought that was kind of funny too. So, look, I just don't. He was very complimentary of Justin Fields today, to be honest. I mean,
yep.
I think there's sort of this groundswell of, and I think it's justified, of like this. I think it's actually sympathy for Justin Fields right now. A lot of just so many questions that this kid's had to deal with the last few weeks, to the point that yesterday he gets asked a question about the amount of questions he's gotten about his future. So it's sort of become I don't know, even just me. I wasn't in the room yesterday. I was just listening to the press conference live as I was driving home after our show yesterday. It's almost awkward to some extent, just the situation he's in. Not the first time we've seen this with the Bears quarterback, but I think that even inside the building, regardless of what happens here, and it includes Luke Getsy, I think a lot of people are trying to project, that like this is some relationship that's not working. I don't really fully get the sense that that's completely accurate.
Were you sitting on any part of you asking him, do you think you're going to be here next year?
No, that didn't occur to me.
Do you think that's even a fair question? Do you think that's a fair question in the middle of a season to be asking him this, or even the other players like DJ Moore asking them about Caleb Williams and Drake May?
I think that's a difficult thing. I think it has to be the context of some of these interviews. Asking a player about, some college football players that aren't even on the team, I think that's different than asking a coach about his job status going into next year. I think if you're going to ask Luke Getsy that question, it's probably something that comes up next week. Because remember, we don't get to talk to these coordinators after the following game. So,
right.
Going into the final game of the year, I think that would be probably a fair question next week.
Fair enough. And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, look, there's so much heat on Justin, and there's a ton of heat on Luke Getsy, which he obviously has to be aware of. It does make more sense to your point that, look, we'll ask you that in the last week, and what's he going to say, really? I hope to be here. I don't know what my future brings. I think I've done a great job, all that type of stuff. But it did stand out to you today, right? How much he was. What has Justin gotten better? You can run through the things that he said, Hoge, but I mean, he basically praised he really went to I love the way he's pulling into the parking lot all the way through everything else that he's doing.
Yeah, and I think that there's some truth to that. He said that they are asking Justin Fields to do a lot. And I think we've seen that since the start of training camp when Luke Getsy was talking about the amount of cadences that they've put in, and just how that's different this year. The ability to handle multiple calls in the huddle. And that's not necessarily something new, but just getting better at that, getting smoother with that entire operation. And I do think pre-snap, Justin Fields has been better this year. Just overall command of the offense, in and out of the huddle, reading defenses, knowing if he's supposed to check to a run, check to a pass. I think those are all things that are not necessarily big issues anymore. I think the bigger issues are more so what's happening post-snap. And part of why this continues to muddy the conversation and make this a tough evaluation, because if the kid is getting better, that could be an argument that he'll continue to get better in all those post-snap things going forward. On the other hand, there's a lot of tape out there now, and that tape, even on Sunday, again, late throws on third down, that first one of the game to Cole Kmet. That ball comes out on time, that's a first down. Instead it's a drive killer, and they're punting. Like those, I think those are the things that are, if the Bears do move on from Justin Fields, that's going to be more so the reasoning behind it, along with, look, it's just time to start the quarterback clock over again and get this regime's own guy in there.
Do you think that, I mean, because like last year it was pretty visible how much that they changed the offense halfway through the season to play to the strengths of Justin Fields. Do you think they did that again this year? Do you think they did a good enough job to try to adjust play calling after losing 4 games in a row and Justin calling out the coaches? Do you think they did a good enough job of adjusting the play calling to the strengths of the personnel, including the quarterback?
Yeah, I think they went back to the stuff that worked last year. And I think that the bigger story was that they tried to not do that the first 4 weeks. I think that they tried to test him more as a pocket passer, and it didn't work. And so they went back to more of the stuff that worked last year. It's been probably more mixed results than that really impressive 4-week stretch that the Bears went through last year offensively against some good quality teams, in which they scored a lot of points. They got a lot of yards, and they just didn't win those games because they were facing, or their defense couldn't really get stops at that point. So yeah, I just think that we could beat this thing to death, guys. We seem to all be in agreement that we know exactly who Justin Fields is at this point, and at least Carm and I know we're in agreement on that. That's, and Carm's probably been on that longer than I have, but it's all right there for you, and I think that's either your flavor of quarterback or it's not. And I think that's the big question here for the Bears, right? Like, because we always talk about flavors of quarterbacks, and if they're good with Justin Fields, they can roll forward with them. But if they want more of a pocket passer and somebody who's going to be more of the 300-yard passer and not the 190 plus another 100 rushing yard type of guy, then they're probably going to move on.
I mean, who is that more of an indictment on? Is it more of an indictment that Justin Fields can't run? Like that, like, do you think that Luke Getsy wants to run a different type of offense? And is that more of an indictment on him because he can't, he wants to adjust to Fields? Or is that an indictment on Fields because he can't run the offense that Luke would want to run?
I don't know. I think that question can apply to so many different coaching quarterback relationships. And that's why you want them on the same page regardless. So yeah, I don't know. It's like the quarterback question, OC quarterback question we're constantly having here in Chicago. Guys, we got a couple more minutes left. I know there's some other things I put down on there for you. If you want to talk about.
Yeah, the Caleb Williams thing, obviously a lot of Bears fans talking about the fact that a backup quarterback at USC had a great day. He had like 6 touchdowns and Caleb's on the sidelines. Does that hurt Caleb Williams' stock? Does that show that it's more of a system than it is the quarterback?
I just think in general it's ridiculous that anybody's trying to make any type of conclusion off a game that he didn't even play in, and it's an exhibition game. This was the Holiday Bowl. These bowl games, have you guys been paying attention? Who the hell knows what team has what motivation, which transfers are not there, which guys are going to the draft? I mean, it is a complete crapshoot. So if you want to poke holes in Caleb Williams, there's plenty of opportunities to do so. Go watch the Notre Dame game. Focus on that if you want to do that. Trying to make any type of conclusions off last night's Holiday Bowl was one of the more ridiculous things I have seen. I don't get it all. By the way, that quarterback for USC last night, he's like a 4-star recruit, and he's still in a good system. So, yeah, he's going to score points. The more remarkable thing for me was that Louisville didn't score more on that awful USC defense.
I think Carm called Miller Moss generational last night.
Okay, I actually was going to make a bet with you right now. I'm glad you just said that. I would have bet a lot of money that you didn't know his name. So I'm impressed that you actually were able to get Miller Moss out. Congratulations. Hey, Richard Hightower talked today. What do you have to say about Devin?
Yeah, he opened up his press conference with some nice comments about Jeff Dickerson, which I think we all appreciated. And then he got into Devin Hester without even a question, just jumped right in. And, I think it was mostly directed at people like Mark Carman who don't believe Devin Hester's a Hall of Famer. No, this is my turn to talk now.
And down.
Not to lie. I just said not first ballot, but go ahead.
Yeah, okay, which is another thing. You're either a Hall of Famer or you're not a Hall of Famer.
That's your rules. Keep going.
Yeah, it is my rules. And my rules is Devin Hester is a Hall of Famer because of how much he impacted the game, and not only just from a touchdown standpoint, but if you really break it down what he meant for field position, which again, any single head coach at any level of football will tell you how important field position is and how much of a boost that gave the Bears in an era where they really weren't getting great quarterback play. So, Richard Hightower spelled it all out. I asked him about just like how different it was preparing to face a guy like that back then compared to now, when even if you're facing a tough returner now, and there's only a handful of them really, the rules are such that it's like they help you stop them anyway. So it's just a completely different era. And I just think it's wrong if the greatest returner of all time in what is essentially a museum. I mean, that's what the Hall of Fame is. It's supposed to remember the game of football over eras and in certain time periods. If the greatest return of all time in an era where returns actually mattered does not get recognized as such, it's just a joke.
Hey, are you going to tell us who the Jeff Dickerson Good Guy Award is going to go to, which I know who it is, or are you just going to keep that under wraps?
No, I'm going to let Patrick Finley is going to be revealing that in a ceremony here in about an hour and 15 minutes. So it'll all come out on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter, and it'll be all out there for you.
Didn't you host the press conference last year?
I did, yes.
Why is Finley doing it this year? I thought you did a great job. Why did Hoge get booted?
Well, thank you. It's always been kind of a rotating thing. Yeah. So
don't make this a competition.
Sure. Everything's a competition.
Every year someone different has done it, and I was willing to do it again. But I told Pat that if somebody else wants to do it, they should, and he decided to do it. So good for him.
Well, and Cole Kmet won it last year, correct?
Cole Kmet won it last year, and which was the first. I don't know. I'm trying to think. We went on this long streak where the person who won the Good Guy Award wasn't here the following year. And we were starting to, have wonder if you're being too good to the media, you get shipped off to a different team. No, yeah. So Cole won it last year and obviously got a contract extension. And it's just, again, for people who don't know, it's to recognize, it can be it doesn't have to be a player. Anybody in the organization that, essentially helps the media do their jobs, is always available, professional, and the fact that it's named after Jeff Dickerson now is just the perfect recognition and name for it. And JD's parents are going to be here again as they were last year. And I know that this being the anniversary of his death is not easy for any of us, especially his parents. And I know last year it was very rewarding and helped them, on this day. They were very appreciative of the whole thing. So it'll be great having them in here again. And just a meaningful day for all of us. And all the Bears fans, too, that love JD and followed his coverage for as long
100%. We miss him.
It's got to be an incredibly emotional day every year for his parents to come in there and see all these faces. And, their son's not here. It's just brutal. But also, celebrating him at the same time is also beautiful. So, at any rate, Hoge, good stuff as always. Yep. We'll be watching for the reveal, and I'm going to ask you to the chat just your guesses or who you would have voted for the Jeff Dickerson Good Guy Award. We'll see what names get thrown in there. We'll see
100%.
We'll see you pregame on Sunday, my friend.
Bye, guys.
There goes the Hoge out at Halas Hall.
We all silly like the mayor.